Patching a class yields attribute error. Mock object has no attribute when accessing instance attributes. The problem. Using mock.patch with autospec equals true to patch a class is not preserving attributes of instances of that class. The details. I am trying to test a class bar that instantiates an instance of class foo as a bar object attribute called foo. The bar method under test is called bar. It calls method foo of the foo instance belonging to bar. In testing this, I am mocking foo, as I only want to test that bar is accessing the correct foo member. The classes and methods work just fine, test_unpatched passes, but when I try to foo in a test case, tested using both notests and pytest, using autospec equals true, I encounter attribute error. Mock object has no attribute foo. Indeed, when I print out mock_foo.return_value._dict_, I can see that foo is not in the list of children or methods. My understanding of autospec is that, if true, the patch specs should apply recursively. Since foo is indeed an attribute of foo instances, should it not be patched? If not, how do I get the foo mock to preserve the attributes of foo instances? Note: this is a trivial example that shows the basic problem. In reality, I am mocking a third-party module.class, console.console, whose client I instantiate in a console wrapper class that I have. As I don't maintain the console module, I can't modify the source to suit my tests. I wouldn't really want to do that anyway. For what it's worth, console.console returns a console client, which has an attribute kv, an instance of console.console.kv. kv has a method get, which I am wrapping in an instance method get_key in my console class. After patching console.console, the call to get fails because of attribute error. Mock object has no attribute kv. Resources already checked. This URL.
No, autospexing cannot mock out attributes set in the _init_ method of the original class, or in any other method. It can only mock out static attributes, everything that can be found on the class. Otherwise, the mock would have to create an instance of the class you tried to replace with a mock in the first place, which is not a good idea. Think classes that create a lot of real resources when instantiated. The recursive nature of an auto-specified mock is then limited to those static attributes. If foo is a class attribute, accessing foo.foo will return an auto-specified mock for that attribute. If you have a class spam whose eggs attribute is an object of type ham, then the mock of spam.eggs will be an auto-specified mock of the ham class. The documentation you read explicitly covers this. A more serious problem is that it is common for instance attributes to be created in the _init_ method and not to exist on the class at all. AutoSpec can't know about any dynamically created attributes and restricts the API to visible attributes. You should just set the missing attributes yourself. Or create a subclass of your foo class for testing purposes that adds the attribute as a class attribute.
There is only a create corg in patch that, when set to true, will create the attribute if it doesn't exist already. If you pass in create equals true, and the attribute doesn't exist, patch will create the attribute for you when the patched function is called, and delete it again after the patched function has exited. This URL
You will fulfill